So we are holding in our Chazara, Kini Masechta Chazara of Moed Katan, Daf Gimmel Amud Bet. The first word on the line is Didhu, closer to the bottom of the Amud, starting from the beginning of the line. So the Gemara was discussing this Isser of doing Malacha Erev Shavit, and at this point the Gemara said it was really an enactment of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, and later on it was nullified by Rabban Gamliel and his Beit Din. And he was allowed to do that because Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, when they made the enactment, they said that whoever wants to be mevatel is allowed to be mevatel. So the Gemara asks, did huhi? 1 second. Is it theirs? It belongs to, it's a decree that belongs to Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Halacha Moshe Misinai. Really, it's halacha Moshe Misinai. Damar Rabbi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Nechunya Ish Bekat Beit Churtan. Rabbi Asi said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the name of Rabbi Nechunya, a man from Bekat Beit Churtan. Eser nitiot, arava, v'nisuch hamayim, halacha leMoshe miSinai. These three things. So arava, we know what arava is. That's the minhag of taking aravot, or not minhag, the halacha Moshe miSinai of taking aravot and doing hakafot around the mizbeach on Sukkot. Nisuch hamayim is the water libations that come with the korbanot on Sukkot. And eser nitiot. What's eser nitiot? So Rashi explains eser nitiot is if you have a field, a certain area, 50 by 50 field, you're allowed to plow that entire field for eser nitiot, for 10 baby trees that are in that field. You're allowed to plow that entire area, Erev Shvi'it, all the way until Rosh Hashanah. So those three things are halacha Moshe Misinai. What's nogeya us is the eser nitiot. So if the halacha Moshe Misinai is telling me you're allowed to do that for baby trees because since they're young, they may die, it's going to be preventing a loss, there's a pseida, therefore you're allowed to plow that entire 50 by 50 area. That means that included in that is that you're not allowed to plow Erev Shvi'it for large trees on a regular field where you're not going to lose out. So how can you tell me this is an enactment of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel if you see clearly it's halacha Moshe Misinai that you cannot plant or plow or do malacha on Erev Shavit all the way until Rosh Hashanah. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, or before Rosh Hashanah, you see. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, ki gemiri hilchata shloshim yom b'fnei Rosh Hashanah. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, you know what the halacha Moshe Misinai is? Halacha Moshe Misinai is teaching me 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, you're not allowed to do malacha except for these eser nitiot. Va'atu hani, and these guys came. Who's hani? Who's these people? Shammai and Hillel. Takun mi Pesach u me'atzeret, and they made a takana not to do malacha from the previous Pesach or Shavuot. Va'atnu b'didhu, and they made a tanai in their takana kol harotzeh levatel yavo vivatel, that whoever wants to be mevatel can come and be mevatel. So at this point, we're saying, really, halacha Moshe Misinai says 1 month before Rosh Hashanah, you can't do malacha on your field. Shammai and Hillel extended that. They said you got to go back to the previous Pesach or Shavuot, depending on the type of field. And Rabban Shimon Gamliel was mevatel that, but still, you're not allowed to do malacha a month before Shvi'it. The Gemara challenges that also. V'hani hilchatan inhu. You're telling me this is halacha Moshe Misinai? Kirayin inhu. These are pisukim. Ditnan becharish uvekatzir tishbot. So pasuk says becharish uvekatzir tishbot. Now, what is that referring to? So machloket tanaim. Rabbi Akiva Omer ein tzarich lomar charish vekatzir shel shvi'it. It cannot be referring to charisha and ketzira of shvi'it. Well, prior to that, really, it seems like a simple understanding of the pasuk is it's talking about Shabbat, but it can't be referring to Shabbat because we already know that plowing and planting charisha and ketzira is also on Shabbat. So rather, maybe it's referring to Shavit, 7th year. But we also know plowing and planting are asur on the 7th year. Shaharei kvar ne'emar, it already says, Sadecha lo tizra vekarmecha lo tizmor. I already have a pasuk teaching me that you're not allowed to do that on Shavit. So what is this pasuk of Becharish uvekatzir tishbot teaching me? Ella rather says Rabbi Akiva, Charish shel Erev Shvi'it, shenichnas la Shvi'it. Talking about charisha of Erev Shvi'it, which is entering the Shvi'it year, meaning the end of the 6th year, entering the 7th year. Vekatzir shel Shvi'it, shiatzel mosei Shvi'it. And it's telling me also, there's an issue of picking the fruits of Shvi'it that are going to Motzei Shavi'it, to the following year. So what do you see from Rabbi Akiva? You see that you are not allowed to do Charisha on Erev Shavi'it, and that is a pasuk, not halacha Moshe Sinai. Rabbi Yishmael learns this pasuk different. Rabbi Yishmael omer ma charish reshut af katzir reshut. Rabbi Yishmael says just like charisha is charisha of reshut, meaning we don't have charisha that's a mitzvah, any plowing that's a mitzvah. So the katzira also, the picking also that the Torah is saying is asur over here is picking that's a mitzvah. Yatsa katzira omer shehi mitzvah. The katzira that's asur is katzira of reshut. And Rabbi Shmuel learns this is talking about Shabbat. So Yatsa Katzira Omer Shehi Mitzvah. This is excluding the Katzira HaOmer, which is a Katzira of Mitzvah. Meaning, we have a machloket between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael. How to learn this pasuk? Pasuk says, don't plow and plant, or don't plow and harvest. So Rabbi Akiva learns this pasuk is referring to Erev Shavi'it. I cannot plow on Erev Shavi'it. Therefore, you see that it's a halacha al Moshe Sinai. It's not a halacha al Moshe Sinai. It's a pasuk. And that's the question that we're asking over here. Rabbi Yishmael learns the pasuk differently. According to Rabbi Yishmael, there's not really any question. Rabbi Yishmael learns that the pasuk is talking about Shabbat, and it's repeating not to do Charisha and Ketzira to teach me a specific halacha that on Shabbat, you know which type of Ketzira, which type of harvesting you're not allowed to do? Harvesting that's similar to plowing, which is harvesting that's not a mitzvah. But harvesting, which is a mitzvah, like the Ketzir HaOmer, harvesting the wheat for the Korban Omer, which is part of the mitzvah of Korban Omer, that you would be allowed to do even on Shabbat. That's how Rabbi Yishmael learns. Either way, we have a question. Rabbi Akiva is clearly learning it from a pasuk. What happened to the halacha al Moshe Sinai? So suggests the Gemara. Ella Amarav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Ki Gemiri Hilchat Al Mishri Yalda. Rabbi Nachman Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, you know what the halacha al Moshe Sinai is to teach me? It's to teach me that you're allowed to do the Eser Netiyot. You're allowed to harvest for the baby trees all the way until Rosh Hashanah. Krai leMesar Zekena. The Pesukim are coming to tell me that it's asur to do it for elderly established trees. Meaning, there's two halachot here. One is that you're not allowed to do malacha Erev Shavi'it, and the other is you're allowed to do malacha for baby trees. So the halacha al Moshe Sinai is telling me you're allowed to do it for baby trees, and the pasuk is telling me you're not allowed to do it for the adult trees. So the Gemara has a problem with this. Since the halacha al Moshe Sinai is to allow to do malacha for the younger trees, for the Eser Netiyot, so already from that halacha Moshe Sinai, I already know that Mimela Zekena Asira, doing malacha for the elder trees is going to be Asur. Rather, says the Gemara, Ella Hilchata Rabbi Yishmael, Karaila Rabbi Akiva. The halacha Moshe Sinai is for Rabbi Yishmael, who doesn't learn it out of the pasuk, because he learns the pasuk differently. And the pasuk is going according to Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva, I guess, does not hold of this halacha Moshe Sinai. He learns straight from the pasuk. Okay, that's one understanding to answer the question. Rabbi Yochanan says, now this takes us back to what we started the previous Amud with. We were coming to answer Rav Dimi's. Rav Dimi came with a halacha. He didn't have an explanation for it. Rabbi Yochanan is coming to explain. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Gamliel Beit Din Omideoraita Bati Lehu. Rabbi Gamliel and his Beit Din used koach deoraita to be mevatel. My ta'ama, what's their reason they were able to be mevatel the establishment, not the halacha Moshe Sinai, not to do malacha on, or this pasuk, or the limud not to do malacha on Erev Shavi'it. Gamar Shabbat mi Shabbat Bereshit. They made a Gzeira Shava Shabbat from the first Shabbat of creation. Just like by Shabbat Bereshit, Shabbat of seventh day, which is Asur to do Malacha, it itself is Asur. Beforehand and afterwards are Mutar. So Afkan hi Asura lefaneu lacharei mutarin. So too here, Shvi'it is asur. We make Gzera Shava from Shabbat to Shvi'it. So too Shvi'it is asur itself to do melacha, but lefaneh achareha, beforehand and afterwards, mutarin, it is mutar to do melacha. And this takes us full circle. It answers what we were saying before. Meaning, we said before, Rav Dimi came with a statement. He said, I may think that you get malkut on tosefet, on the additional thing, but there's a limud to tell me you really don't. So Rabbi Yochanan said, you know what the additional thing is? It's talking about doing melacha on Erev Shevit. I might think you get malkut for doing melacha on Erev Shevit because we learn now from Pasuk Becharishu v'Katzir Tishbot, like Rabbi Akiva. But no, we have a limud from Shabbat Bereshit to teach me that just like Shabbat, you're allowed to do malacha before and after Shabbat, so too on Shvi'it, you're allowed to do malacha before and after Shvi'it. And that's where Gamliel and his Beit Din came and used to be mevatel this drasha of Rabbi Akiva, of Becharish Uvekatzir Tishbot. That's Rabbi Yochanan. But the Gemara doesn't really like this so much. At least Rav Ashi doesn't like it so much. Says the Gemara, Matkif lo Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi asks against this. Man damar hilchata. According to the one that says it's halacha l'Moshe misinai not to do malacha on erev Shavit. So atia gzera shava akra hilchata. Gzera shava comes and undoes halacha l'Moshe misinai. Uman damar kra. The man damar that says it's a pasuk. At gzera shava akra kra. Gzera shava comes and undoes the pasuk of becharish. How could you do that? Ella Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi learns like this. Says Rashi, Rabbi Gamliel Beidino, Savri Lak Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Gamliel and his Beit Din who are able to uproot this, they hold like Rabbi Yishmael. The Amar Hilchata Gemirila, that it's a halacha lemoshe, that it's a halacha Moshe Misinai. V'chi Gemiri Hilchata Bizman Shebeit HaMikdash Kayam. When was the halacha Moshe Misinai said? In the time that the Beit HaMikdash is Kayam. Then do we have this isur of not working Erev Shavit? Dumya de Nisuch HaMayim. Similar to the other case, the Nisuch HaMayim, Arava, that are the other things that are part of this list of the things that are Halacha Moshe Misinai listed here. And clearly those are when the Beit HaMikdash is Kayam. So too, Eser Nitiyot, that heter of working Erev Shavit, and we would infer also the Isser of not doing Malacha Erev of Isser to do Malacha Erev Shavi'it would be only when the Beit HaMikdash is Kayam. When the Beit HaMikdash is not Kayam, lo, then there is no Isser.